Hi, it's me, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. Hey, I just realized my mic is like super out of alignment. Hi, how are you guys? Hope you guys are doing well. What is today? Tuesday, Monday? It's Monday, and it's Falcon Heavy time. These are obviously, I think, operational rockets. I don't think you get cooler than Falcon Heavy. I think we all know why Falcon Heavy is awesome, because, obviously it's the world's currently, only reusable. It's the most reusable rocket currently available, which makes it awesome. It's ever since they launched a Roadster in Falcon Heavy, it's kind of hard to top that, in my opinion. So, but today's mission is actually super interesting and super unique. So we're gonna do what we always do, which is we're going to go to a little website called everydayastronaut.com, and we are going to learn a little bit more about this mission. So again, anytime you guys need to know anything about upcoming missions, right? You can go to everydayastronaut.com. You can click on upcoming launches. I always give this spiel because every single time I stream, I get the same questions. When is this launching? Which, look, we got a little, wait, over there. We got a little timer, top left corner of your screen. It shows you the countdown to the current net, the current T0. And we always see things like, what's it launching? Is it landing? When, where, how, why? All of those things that you need to know are right here already. Everydayastronaut.com, click on upcoming launches, and you will see this one, USSF 52. So this is scheduled to take off today. So if you are in Europe, it's going to be on the 12th, December 12th at 1:14 UTC. But locally, that is 8:14 p.m. In Florida. The mission name for this is USSF 52, which is OTV-7, which is a launch of the Space Force's secretive X-37B spaceplane. I absolutely love this thing. If you guys, the pre-launch preview has not been updated apparently. Wait, is that? I don't know. We'll see if. Okay, so the X-37B spaceplane is still honestly one of the coolest vehicles I think flying. So this is two of my favorite vehicles because it's a space plane, which yay, I think space planes are awesome. It's like a miniature space shuttle, and Falcon Heavy, the coolest operational rocket flying right now. So I would say the launch provider for this is a SpaceX launch, but the customer is the United States Space Force. Remember, this is how this stuff works. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger so you guys can read it because I realize that's pretty small. That's how this stuff works. SpaceX, for the most part, unless they're launching their own missions, they normally are just a launch provider. They're like the UPS or the FedEx. They're just sending a payload to a place. They're sending a thing to a place. It's the customer is the U.S. Space Force. The rocket is a Falcon Heavy with booster 1064-5 and booster 1065-5. The 5 meaning they've flown 5 times already, which is crazy. And the center core is B1084-1, so it's the only launch of the center core. It's the only one that it will ever have because it's expended. And the turnaround times are pretty close to 60 days, 59 and a half days for these cores, which that's pretty impressive. Pretty cool that we're having Falcon Heavy launches this frequently. I mean, back in the day, it was like we were just waiting. We waited years for Falcon Heavy launches, and now it's the era of Falcon Heavy launches. All right, where is this spacecraft going? It's going to a Molniya-type orbit, highly elliptical, high-inclination orbit based on marine zones. The exact orbit, though, is classified. Again, this is technically a top-secret mission. We don't actually know what it's doing. Where will the first stage land? Or will they attempt to recover the first stage partially? Both the side boosters will be covered, but the center core will be expended. Sorry, guys. I thought that was it. I had heard, a while ago, I thought it was about a year ago, that they were no longer even pursuing center core reusability, but it sounds like they might be still trying to do a center core reuse at some point. Now, they technically have landed one center core. I believe it was Arabsat 6A in 2019, but it was lost. That was before they had a proper hold-down clamp fitted for being able to clamp down to the Falcon Heavy. And unfortunately, the booster tipped over on the way back. It was, I think, the first booster they lost, too, was a Falcon Heavy center core. So that was a super big bummer. But, there's not much of a trade. Like, there's not a lot of margin there. It's kind of diminishing returns trying to recover the center core because it's already going that much faster. Because it's going that much faster, you have to do that much more of a slowdown before you hit the atmosphere with a boost back burn, an entry burn. So it's already pushing the limits that much more that we've kind of been thinking maybe it's just not even worth it. And it sounded like SpaceX, but they will be recovering a center core in the future, hopefully. Will they be recovering? Yeah, so they'll be landing the side boosters back on land at landing zone 1 and 2, and the center core will splash down in the Atlantic Ocean. Will they be attempting to recover the fairings? Yes, the fairing halves will be recovered. Almost 1,500 kilometers downrange, so 916 miles downrange. That gives you a sense of just how much energy the boosters are doing, which is, yeah, just crazy. Are these fairing halves new? These fairing halves are new. The weather is currently 75% go for launch. This is the fastest a plane has ever traveled. Think about that. Because since it's in a higher and more elliptical orbit, it's traveling faster than the space shuttle ever did. The space shuttle's maximum altitude, I believe, was something like 300 miles or something, about 500 kilometers when it launched and then serviced the Hubble Space Telescope. That's the highest the shuttle ever went. This is going much higher than that. Again, we don't know exactly where and what altitude and all that stuff, but it's going to be higher, therefore faster. That's how orbital mechanics work. There is a kind of a minimum. Ironically, when you're at your lowest point in an orbit, it is the fastest. But if it's in an elliptical orbit, it'll be going, the velocity relative to Earth will be extremely high. So pretty fun. Let's see. Okay, so this is the first launch of the X-37B on Falcon Heavy, but it's not the first time SpaceX has launched. I believe they launched the X-37B on a Falcon 9. This is the 7th overall X-37B launch, the 4th launch for the X-37 Vehicle 2. This is the 9th Falcon Heavy launch, the 5th Falcon Heavy launch this year. So over, that's pretty amazing. More than doubled just in this year alone, which is crazy. The 226th and 227th reflight of a booster, it's astonishing. The 92nd and 93rd reflight of a booster this year, again, astonishing. 254th and 255th booster landings, astonishing. I don't know what else to say. Like, this is just getting stupid. It's like airplanes. 180th and 181st consecutive landings, a record. Again, like airplanes. I'm sure there's some airplanes out there in fleets that haven't even landed that much, relatively new planes. Obviously, very new plane. But like, I bet there's someone like that has had a 10-year-old Cessna that has actually done less landings than that bought it and just have not put the hours in on it at all. That'd be fun to see. Anyway, 94th launch for SpaceX this year, 72nd launch from LC-39 this year, and the 203rd orbital launch attempt of this year broke 200 already. Absolutely amazing. So it sounds like the T0 time has actually changed and that now they pushed it back to 2024. I did not know that. They pushed it back 10 minutes. Huh. All right, well, there we go. So if you want to learn more about this, including, we got to show you the picture. This is the vehicle that we're talking about, the X-37B. It's like a baby space shuttle. It's made by Boeing. I think it's beautiful. I love it. It actually has like a V-tail instead of a vertical stabilizer. I just think it's a really cool looking vehicle. It's got these stubby little wings and it's completely autonomous. No one's inside it. It sits inside of a payload fairing, so no one's inside this vehicle. And it's been in space for over 2 years at a time. So that's just absolutely crazy. It's breaking all sorts of records for longevity missions and things like that. So yeah, if you want to learn more about the Falcon Heavy and the Falcon 9 and the reusability and all that stuff, of course, we go into all that stuff. But here's what's interesting. We won't know too much. They aren't really going to cover too much of the second stage burn because they're trying to keep it top secret. So, oh, dang. It's officially been scrubbed. All right, update our thing. Before I lose you guys, I do need to tell you one thing that's really important. If you are especially if you're in the United States, but especially if you're in Texas, come to the Astro Awards live. I will be there. We're inviting all the major players in the aerospace industry. This is your chance to see people live. I'm going to answer some questions, by the way, since we're here. But I do need to let you guys know about this. We still have a few tickets left. Some of the packages are sold out. So if you don't want to miss this, January 13th and 14th, Austin, Texas. Come see me. Come hear me play music live on January 13th. They're throwing a concert, a party downtown Austin, a pre-show party. Then the 14th is the actual awards show. We're going to get people that do these exciting missions, such as this mission right here, up on stage, giving them a physical award and recognizing the hard work that they do in the industry, all the inspiration that they give us, all of the amazing things that they do to benefit humanity. We're going to celebrate them live in person. So if you are, if you're, available January 13th, 14th, that is Martin Luther King weekend if you're in the United States. So you can travel, hopefully, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, make a little weekend out of it in Austin, Texas. Come see me. You can get tickets at everydayastronaut.com/shop. You'll see the links right there on the home screen, tickets on sale. Or you can go to Astro Awards 2024.com. But just go to everydayastronaut.com/shop. You'll see it there. I hope to see you guys there. It's going to be so fun. We have some amazing people already coming, and it's going to be an event you don't want to miss. That being said, let's just since it's Scrub, let's answer a few questions, and yeah, let's answer some questions. I'm sorry that it's a Scrub. Scrubs are not fun, but hopefully they can. Tomorrow night is the net, so hopefully they can get the ground equipment fixed and all that stuff. Yeah, so Scrubbed. Can we get rid of the countdown clock too? We'll just totally cancel the countdown clock so people don't see that. Shoot! Scrubs are not fun, but Scrubs are cheaper than RUDs, than rapid unscheduled disassembly. All right, so here's a great question here from, this one is coming in from Brisson Jameson saying, have seen the rocket pollution video. I was wondering, is there a point below, at, or above the Kármán line where rocket exhaust no longer affects and or pollutes the atmosphere? That's a great question. That's something that I couldn't find easily. There's not actually a lot of data out there studying the effects of, CO2 emissions and whatever pollutants in space. And I just don't even know enough about it after even I spent so much time researching that topic that I still don't actually know exactly, what happens in those cases. But I'm pretty sure it's high enough up and it's not in concentrated enough amounts there to really have a drastic effect compared to being in like the troposphere or the lower atmosphere. Or the stratosphere. Again, I don't know a ton about it, and I would have to refresh and learn about it more. But I think because I just don't think the effect is nearly as great, if I recall, because it's not conducting with other air molecules and it won't have that same greenhouse gas effect that would do warming. And also, if it's not in the atmosphere, it's not contaminating if it's a pollutant. So, yeah, that's my understanding. Again, I remember there was one research paper, and I don't think I ended up reading the whole thing because it was kind of inconclusive, actually, that they didn't really know enough. They haven't studied it enough, really, to be able to really say enough. So, so there is no SpaceX YouTube channel that's going to be streaming this, by the way. If someone says at T-1 minute, what do you mean Scrub on SpaceX? SpaceX is not streaming to YouTube anymore. If you see a SpaceX channel, it's likely a crypto scam these days. Same with Tesla. Just keep that in mind. Just spread the word whenever you see, like, if someone is streaming SpaceX and it says SpaceX official or SpaceX on YouTube, they are not streaming to YouTube. They're posting some videos occasionally, 4K videos, which is nice. But if you see that, it's likely a scam. So just know, and it's just probably misinformation. It absolutely drives me crazy. It drives me crazy that people are out there scamming like that and providing misinformation, making people, be ill-informed and think things are happening when they aren't or aren't happening when they are. It's terrible. Okay, so this is great question from Vasily. So, and by the way, I believe, are these ones from our Discord channel? It says Everyday Astronaut. I think these are from our Discord channel. I think they are. Anyway, why are they using the Falcon Heavy instead of the Falcon 9? They did launch in 2017 with the Falcon 9. So if you want to send a payload that weighs the same amount, has the same mass, and you want to go higher, which requires going faster because of orbital mechanics, you need a more powerful rocket. So yes, it's not the mass of the vehicle, which we don't actually really know the mass of the vehicle, which is just crazy to say because it's top secret. But assuming it's the same, if you want to get it higher, say you wanted to take it to, any medium Earth orbit or geostationary transfer orbit or out to the moon, the further and further and further you get, the more delta V you need, the more change in velocity that vehicle requires. And the vehicle obviously has a set amount of X amount of propellant. So if you park it in low Earth orbit, it can do a little bit, it can maybe raise and lower and change its orbit a little bit. But in order to do beyond that, if you actually want to, sling it out there far or something, then yeah, you're going to need a bigger rocket. So that's what Falcon Heavy does. Those side boosters basically help lob that center core faster, which then, compared to a Falcon 9, which then means it's lobbing that second stage faster already. So by the time the second stage lights, it's already moving quicker, has higher velocity. By the time that second stage then is done burning, when it would have, like, if it would have stopped burning in low Earth orbit, like what it would have with a Falcon 9, say it burned to completion in a Falcon 9, it'd probably have, like, 10, 20, 30% remaining propellant left in that upper stage, which then is propellant that, of course, you can use to continue your mission and go higher. So, by the way, since we're just kind of hanging out, and even if it streams tomorrow, I'll stream tomorrow too. But we'll just treat this as like a podcast. It's like a Everyday Astronaut Answers Your Questions live podcast. Speaking of, tell me this. I've wanted to do a podcast. I've thought about just making it the most casual podcast in the world, where I'm literally just reading questions on Twitter and just answering them like this. And it's just me. I'll just mic up while I'm going for a walk or walking around or whatever. Super casual. I might be in the airport or in the car or something. Probably not in the car unless I'm a passenger. And just answering questions. And would there be interest in that? I know that there's a lot of people that miss podcasts. And the other thing that people miss is Our Ludicrous Future, which is a podcast I used to do. And guess what? We're going to do one on Thursday for you guys. We've had a lot of people asking. So we are doing Our Ludicrous Future on Thursday, just to kind of do a little get-together, a little holiday, end-of-year wrap, little fun thing. Haven't talked to those guys in a while. Really miss them. So we're going to be doing that on Thursday. So hopefully you guys can join us. I think we're doing it around noon Central. So that's 18 UTC. Right? Yeah. 18 UTC. And hopefully you guys can join us for that. But I do want to do just a casual walk-around podcast where I'm just answering questions just like this. So, yeah. Boom. Okay, so... Okay, cool. Oh, that's from Discord. So then... with a little underlined Everyday Astronaut. Oh, these are just... Okay, never mind. I see what's going on. I get it. Okay, this is... Yes, in case we missed this... Well, I don't need to say it now because we've talked about it being scrubbed. This is a great question from Shadow Rocker. Tim, is Starship really going to need 8 refuelings before landing on the moon? Potentially. Yeah, I mean, it might need a lot more than that. We actually don't know the number. It could be... as few as, 2 or 3 refueling trips. It could be as many as 15. We really actually don't know the number, and that's why this has been kind of such a big speculation. Of course, Destin Sandlins from Smarter Every Day had a great video talking about kind of, questioning your constraints and all these things, and listening to negative feedback and all these things, and brought up the question of, like, is this really viable? 15 launches for Super Heavy, Starship and Super Heavy, to get the HLS Starship to the moon. And this came out of a recent OIG report from NASA, so the Office of, what's that called? Inspector General. So they're making sure that, where the money is allocated and all these things. Is there any, overspending? How are we doing on progress on missions and all these things, right? So the OIG is doing a report, and they brought up these HLS, the Human Landing System, the Starship Lunar Lander. And they basically said, like, yeah, we're pretty concerned that, there hasn't been much progress made, despite there now being two test flights of Super Heavy and Starship. But they, not any tangible progress as far as, like, they're not starting to do refueling missions. They're not starting to get a tanker up in orbit. There's a few things to keep in mind. I think the biggest one to keep in mind, and I'm going to obviously defend this program because I believe that Starship and Super Heavy will work just from the iteration we're seeing, the rapid development of it, the fact that there's like a backline of rockets ready to fly. We're seeing updates to the pad. We're seeing all these big, massive changes. And the rocket of, April from IFT-1, from Integrated Flight Test 1, and the launch pad from IFT-1 are not the same as what's flying already now. It's already massively upgraded. Things are moving at breakneck speeds. So anything that you conjecture of what it's like now just likely won't be true next year, definitely won't be true in 2 years, and most certainly won't be true in 3 or 4 years. We saw how quickly the Falcon 9 was upgraded, and performance increase continues to increase today. I mean, it's just ridiculous, the amount of performance they're able to squeeze out of it. Some of the things they can do to mitigate those trips to a refueling tanker, because there will be a tanker parked in orbit. Some of the things they can do to mitigate that is they could expend a Falcon Heavy booster. I know that sounds ridiculous, considering the whole philosophy of SpaceX and all of the things that they're doing, you know, with reusability and hopefully soon rapid reusability of Starship, or eventually rapid, I'll say eventually rapid reusability of Starship and Super Heavy. Expending a Super Heavy booster, I mean, they're already doing that. Like, they're already intentionally knowing that these first test flights are nothing, right? And these are just test flights. So obviously they could financially afford to expend a few of these if they needed to do this mission more quickly, you know, within a shorter timeline, to not have to worry about boil off and all these other considerations of an on-orbit depot. By simply expending the booster, it'd likely increase the payload almost up to twice as much. So if we're talking about it having maybe 150 metric tons to low Earth orbit, they could likely get it up to about 300. So now we can already take whatever number, let's say it was going to be 10, we're just making up numbers, 10 refueling trips. If they did 5 launches with expendable with expendable Super Heavy boosters, they could get it down to 5. Now let's say they expended and made super stripped down Starships without heat shield tiles, without flaps, and just literally just a dummy, you know, it only had 3 Raptor engines or whatever, maybe, you know, 4, maybe just 4 sea level with 1 big sea level in the middle. That'd be actually really cool. They could potentially do double it almost again. So they could get it down to like 2 or 3 trips to be able to do a complete refuel of HLS, of Human Landing System. If they just said, okay, screw it, our reusability stuff is too far behind to be able to match any of this timeline stuff. We're just going to sacrifice 2 or 3 of these things, which they've already done 2 sacrificial Starship Super Heavy launches this year. 2 or 3 more to get us to the moon probably isn't a big deal. I think that's, if I were the mission planner right now, and if we saw how many milestones we had to get to actually be able to do rapid reusable refueling of a huge tanker, it's going to take 15 launches or whatever it is to actually get this thing prepared to be able to launch the HLS to the moon, I would consider expending some for the sake of timeliness. And at this point, Super Heavy has proven itself as a viable lift vehicle. It had, think about this, you know, it made it all the way up to stage separation with all engines running proficiently. Now, if you don't have to do a boost back burn, you don't have to worry about relighting things. You can just do shutdowns. It's a lot simpler, more reliable. I think at this point, Super Heavy has proven to be potentially viable. I think, no, it is proven to be viable. It can lift more above the Kármán line than any rocket ever, you know, and at high velocity, obviously. So yeah, I think they could do something like that if they had to. Let's say NASA's putting a lot of pressure on them and it's 2020. Let me think. Artemis 3 is supposed to be 2025. Let's say it's now 2026 and they still haven't got, you know, a depot up in space and they're still not anywhere close to that. Time to expend some. That's my opinion. All right. That was a long rant. Do I think, this is a great question. Do I think SpaceX will get more flights out of a booster than Discovery's 39 flights? That's a hefty goal. That's a very hefty goalpost. That 39 flights out of a single vehicle to orbit and back, especially to orbit, not just, above the Kármán line, is a lot. And there doesn't seem to be, from what we've heard, there doesn't seem to be any hard limit on the life of the boosters, the lifespan of the boosters. I wouldn't say no at this point. I maybe, because I didn't think they'd get anywhere close to 20, and they're up to what, 19 on a handful of boosters, or 17. I don't remember what the current record is. I've lost track because it's just too hard to keep up with, which is nuts. 5 years ago I was like, oh, actually we're coming up on the 2015. 8-year anniversary, is that right? Wait, 2015, yeah. 8-year anniversary of the first Falcon 9 booster landing. Back then, it was so easy to keep track of everything. Now it's not. But yeah, I wouldn't put it past them to be able to fly a booster 40 times. I know that sounds absurd considering they're not to 20 yet, but 20 I thought was absolutely crazy. When they were back, flying 5, 6, 7 times, I was like, oh my God, they might actually get to 10. And I was sold on like 10 is definitely the lifespan of a booster, and that was the original design. They actually did originally say 20, then they kind of walked it back to 10. Like, we're happy if it gets to 10. Now they're smashing through 10, almost getting up to 20. Who knows? What's another 20? Let's see. Have I ever, from Joe saying, I've seen Tim play around with Kerbal Space Program. I wonder if he's ever tried Orbiter 2010 or Space Engineers. No, I think I did play Orbiter 2010 for a minute once, but not Space Engineers. I have done also, what's the other game that's, it used to be Simple Rockets, now it's Juno. That's a great game too, but for some reason it's just hard for me to switch from one to the other. Actually, I should use Juno for this simulation that I'm running because it is, I might use Juno again. All right, let's see. I'm a little bit confused on this question. Since there are many high altitude effects from stuff from airplanes, the effects could be even higher up. No, back to the pollution question. You know, that's a good topic of debate, but I don't think so. I think, you know, the big thing with airplanes, it still is in the atmosphere, so therefore it is still, yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough about this. I shouldn't conjecture too much. I shouldn't speculate too much more. Oh, geez, this is very long. This is a very long one. I don't want to stream too much tonight since we're going to be doing this all over again tomorrow. So maybe I'll save this one for another time. I'll save this one for another. That's like a whole video. And you know how long a video is for me. Which, by the way, we are still working on part 2 of Why Don't They Just. It's so good. Talking about, why not use jet engines with rockets and or, air launching and or catapults, maglevs, vacuum tunnels, all the things that you guys ask about. We're diving into that. Is there an app or an easy way to get notified of launches? Absolutely. Thank you so much for the super chat, by the way, Double Dare. I still really like Next Spaceflight is a great app. I believe it's on iOS. I don't know if it's, I assume it's also on Android. But that's great. I think there's also some launch calendars. Discord, do we know? Are there other, I assume at this point somebody's just developed like a calendar you can subscribe to or whatever. Correct. Nothing is happening. You're just hanging out with me. It is scrubbed. You can tell right here. We wrote it out scrubbed. It's not launching tonight. There's nothing happening. I'm just farting around with you guys for a little bit longer. And then I'm going to go eat. Let's see. I don't know if there's a Google Calendar or not, but I'm sure somebody's done something like that. From Goat Pilot 04, thank you again for your generous donation. Tim, have you seen or read the studies on anabolic steroid use in space? Pretty neat. I have not at all. That's well outside of my normal domain, but I'd be very curious what it does. What's it do? Why? What's the effects? I should read up on that. Maybe I'll have to do anabolic steroids when I go to space. Who knows? It'd be fun I would like to be a guinea pig on some of that stuff. It'd be fun to be a test subject. Went around the moon. That'd be pretty crazy. All right, let's see here. Am I excited for Vulcan? What do you think the future holds for Vulcan if Starship becomes super reliable and fully reusable? Thank you, Tyler. Good to hear from you. You've been around. I am excited for Vulcan. Honestly, I think ULA needs to have a new rocket that's more capable and less expensive. It is a step in the right direction, obviously compared to old. Atlas was basically, a derivative of a vehicle built in the 50s and 60s with Russian engines the Russian engines are actually more new than I think a lot of people think. Energomash made those in, I don't know when exactly, but it's like recent, like 90s. It's not old, crazy old Soviet technology. They were derived, of course, from the RD-180, which is Soviet technology. Derived from the RD-170 and RD-171, which, of course, is Soviet technology. Anyway, the point is, Vulcan was at least a step in the right direction. My honest opinion is I think had it been flying for the last 10 years, say it had launched in 2013 for the first time, or 2015, and had all this time to be a productive member of Spaceflight Society, I think it would have been a huge smashing success. I think the heritage of ULA developing reliable vehicles is fantastic. It's second to none. And I still do have full faith that the rocket's going to work out great, and they're going to build a large number of them. But its lifespan in the world of spaceflight is limited because it just won't be able to compete financially with New Glenn, even with, it's not going to compete with Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy. Financially, it's not going to compete with Super Heavy or Starship at all. So it will have a limited, it'll have a limited life. If Blue Origin buys ULA, which is sounding like might be there's rumors of that swirling, then I could see, it living as just a gap fill until New Glenn is operational, which might be sooner than we think or longer than we think. Cool. Let's keep going. Tammy says they would love an Everyday Astronaut podcast. Yeah, I think I need to do it. I'll try to do it. I'll try to start it up by the end of the year. I just never know, when am I going to start something like this? I'm already stretched already, especially with the Astro Awards stuff. We are going so hard on the Astro Awards. Maybe too hard. If you're going, you're going to have the greatest time ever. We're throwing all the stuff to the wall. We are going all out on the Astro Awards, and we want it to be amazing, and we want it to be a huge celebration that we do every year and that people look forward to and everyone's super excited about. So we're going all in, and you're going to have the best time. Let's see here. Thank you so much from Vasily for your welcome. Let's see here. Richard, we know Raptor 3 gets much more chamber pressure. How does that translate to performance? That's a great question, actually. I'm trying to think, did we have a video specifically talking about expansion ratio? Where besides the aerospike video touches on it a little bit. Honestly, I think the how do you power a rocket engine really does walk you through that a decent amount, but the higher your chamber pressure, that means the greater difference, especially for a sea level engine, this makes a really big difference, but even in vacuum, the greater your pressure in the chamber, the greater the differential is between your exhaust, the exhaust exit of the nozzle and the atmosphere, or the lack of an atmosphere. And what happens is the more and more you expand that nozzle, the longer that nozzle gets, the faster you're accelerating the gas. And the faster the gas is moving out of a rocket engine, the more efficient it is. You're doing more work with the same amount of propellant. So the faster the exhaust moves out of the engine, the more efficient it is. It's plain and simple. And so the higher chamber pressure, the more potential you have to expand that nozzle out to actually have it be lower pressure at the end. Well, or it ends up being about the same pressure, the pressure will normally be the same because you have limitations on size, and if you're at sea level, you have limitations on how low you can get that pressure before it's too low at sea level, where you might have flow separation issues. So you do have the amount will be the same at the very end, but it'll have done more. Your expansion ratio can be higher. So your ratio between your throat and the nozzle exit can be higher. The higher your exhaust pressure is, your chamber pressure is, the more work that can end up doing. So it's just direct correlation there. It's a double scrub tonight. No Starlink mission either. Dang. All right. We just had a membership come from Vince. Thank you so much for becoming a member. And this is the last one we'll do tonight, because I'll be back on tomorrow, hopefully, assuming that this launches tomorrow. I'll be doing this, and there's also a Rocket Lab launch that I was planning to cover, so I might do a doubleheader tomorrow night, which would be really fun. But let me check on Rocket Lab, see if they're still. That'll be the return to flight. It's currently still. Is this right? It's still saying 10 o'clock for my time tomorrow night. It's a late one. But if that's the case, then I will be streaming. Yeah, still on track. Then I will be streaming that tomorrow. So I'll do a doubleheader tomorrow. But So I'll be done answering questions here in a second. I saw another super chat go through, so I'll answer that. But this is from Luis Matthew. With a high number of space agencies around the world, each launching rockets, not laughing rockets, I'm guessing, hopefully. Each rocket with multiple boosters that are being dumped into the area is concerning to me. Well, that's why, luckily, the ones that are being dumped are not flying nearly as frequently. I don't think financially, I really think the reusable booster thing that SpaceX is doing is what's able to unlock this cadence that they have. They're flying almost every 3 days at this point, and they're not expending hundreds of boosters into the ocean. Pretty great. It's a win-win. So I think as these things happen, we're pursuing more and more reliability anyway. the biggest, the biggest launch providers that are going to be launching the most often will be reusable just by virtue. Like, that's just the only way you can launch that frequently is by being reusable. So I think it'll be fine. And hopefully, I mean, unless we get to the point where all of a sudden we're launching 1,000 times more and none of them are reusable, then yeah, we'd have a major problem. Or even 100 times would not be great. Even 10 times more would not be great. But I don't think we'll get to that point because reusable rockets will become so prolific and so the norm that it just won't even be financially viable to be expending rockets, in my opinion. VINs. I've seen many trajectory views showing Falcon launching east of Cat Island, Bahamas. After launch, when is the second stage viewable by eye? So let's see. That would probably, that's not this mission because Falcon Heavy will be going northeast. But if it's a Starlink mission, when is second stage viewable by eye? We can use flightclub.io to kind of figure that out. Flightclub.com. Wait, flightclub.io. Let's view a trajectory here. So Declan Murphy, the mad wizard behind flightclub.io, can tell you where to look and all of the things. Let's make sure. Okay, so it's been a while since let's see here. Where's the visualizer? I forget. It's 3D Viz. So if you are a member of Flight Club, you can literally pinpoint your exact address, or like where you're going to be standing, not address, where you're going to be standing. I'm going to look up where the Cat Islands are because I'm not actually to Cat Island, Bahamas. I'm going to look up where that is so I kind of have a reference here of. Okay, that's pretty far east of. Okay, so that's this Longo guy, like right here. Yep, that's this guy. So, let's see here. I forget what there it is. All right, so the second stage burns from here all the way, which is like, oh, this is orientation is pretty hard to look at. Uh-oh. What am I doing? I need an adult. Somebody help. Send help. Someone. Where am I? What did I do? Okay. So we're looking at Florida here. And you can see just how. Okay, I'm getting the hang of this. It's been a while. All right, there we go. Second stage burns all the way from here, so pretty much off the coast, all the way to down here, which is, what are we getting at here? Is this Puerto Rico, or is that, that's Puerto Rico. So we're getting close to Puerto Rico, you know, I mean, so you'd be able to see it through, basically, I mean, the second stage burn will fly what looks like almost right over you, but it's going to be still not flying over. It'll be like this. So it doesn't actually overfly you, but it'll feel like it. It'll be pretty vertical compared, like when you're looking up, it'll look almost straight up. Yes, that's, for instance, again, this is the Starlink mission that was supposed to be tonight, is now likely tomorrow. Yeah, flightclub.io. Hopefully that helps you plan things. Yeah. All right, everybody. I love you guys. I'm really happy that you hung around. I mean, there's still 4,000 of you just hanging out with me while we know that there's no launch happening. But yeah, we'll do this again tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow. Like I said, I'll probably do 2 launches tomorrow because we'll do the Electron return to flight too. But again, especially if you are in the United States, especially if you're in Texas, and double, triple, especially if you're in Austin, do not miss the Astro Awards 2024. It's going to be the best time ever. Get your tickets at everydayastronaut.com/shop, or yeah, all this. I'm wearing the Methalox shirt, by the way. I think this is the coolest shirt we have. Right? I don't know, between this and the new Hypergolic stuff, but I love the back of the shirt so much. Yeah, it's super cool. Has a lot of nerdy details, like some Raptor engines, but it's, yeah. Anyway, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out with me. That's going to do it for me. I'm Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, bringing space down to Earth for everyday people, and we're going to be rolling the Scrub song, which is the song Translunar Coast. You can find it on Spotify and Apple Music and all those places. And you can hear me play it live in January 13th. All right, we'll see you guys.